Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's April 7th, 2026. Hope everybody had a good Easter weekend. Please note this event is being recorded, and the recording will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who's on Zoom, please take a few minutes here and give us your name, the position you're looking for. Give us your LinkedIn address, your email address. Give us 2 or 3 target companies we may be able to help you with. And then if you have connections at a couple companies, please list those because maybe you can help somebody else who's on the call today. And be sure to save the chat at the end of this call because this is a great way to connect with other people on LinkedIn. That's what LinkedIn is all about, connecting with other people. And you can let everybody else know that you saw them here today on LinkedIn Tuesday. Well, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I usually have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job. And I'll tell you about our upcoming program this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. Don't wait until you have an interview to schedule an interview. Schedule one now. They like to say practice early, practice often, because when a recruiter or somebody calls on your phone, you want to know what to say and to be able to say it the correct way. So for more information, you can reach out to dallaspitcrew.com. We have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn on a monthly basis. They rotate through, each sharing their own thoughts, how they view LinkedIn and what they think you should be doing on your LinkedIn. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's a career consultant. He's been recruiting and hiring people for many, many years. And today he's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results. So, Locke, thank you very much for being with us, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Jeff. I'll see if we can do the share.
There you go.
Here we go from the beginning, okay? And I'm going to put you people on the, shrink you down to basically to minimize the screen, but basically that's my bio up there. As Jeff mentioned, I've spent 43 years in recruiting and finally retired in the end of 2011. I had one search assignment in 2011, but completed it with the University of Texas at Dallas. And since 2001, yes, there's some overlap there. I've worked with those in career and job transition and helping them find positions, including I think I spent 4 years with Mullen International before Mullen sold out to Lee Heck Harrison in 2017, and with Lee Heck Harrison for 2 years until a shoulder surgery limited my capacity to work. And my last paycheck I think was for $15. But I've also been a job hunter, like many of you out there in the audience today, and at least 5 times I just counted up again that I've been out looking for jobs, and I won't count all the jobs that I had, contract positions that ended, and you had to find another job for there. If anybody is interested, I talk kind of fast and cover a lot of ground. So if you want the slide deck, it's lockealderson@gmail.com. So that's kind of where it's all about. The other thing about me is during those times of unemployment and looking for a job, and some of those times are kind of like a roller coaster. There's some definite highs and some definite lows when you get that no from a job that you thought you were going to get the offer on. So for me, I've turned to scripture in those particular situations, and I do that every day. I spent some time this morning in that. But this is just a verse of scripture that helps me. Blessed be the Lord, day after day, he bears our burdens, from Psalms uh, 6819. Well, like anything else, job hunting is a relationship, and many of us have all kinds of relationships. But this one, particularly one on LinkedIn, is a question of showing up, and that's getting found on LinkedIn and your profile, and then opening it, what you've done and how well you've done it, talking to people on screen. So that's where we are. But if you aren't using LinkedIn or you're using it for the first time, welcome. You're among 180,000 in the United, 180 million in the United States who are on LinkedIn, and over a billion in the world. And so it's become a real resource for recruiters. It's probably the number one tool in their toolbox, if you will, or in their quiver of arrows. I know I used it when I was with Oracle Corporation and with Siebel Corporation. So I go back a few years with Oracle. So if your goal is to be found when a recruiter or a hiring manager does a search for someone on your background, they want to quickly find you. And so it was quickly adopted by recruiters to find people online. And one comment that a man who'd used LinkedIn said, LinkedIn has been an irreplaceable tool in my job search. The ability to show employers what I've done, the exact experience that I've had, and the skills on my profiles that what ultimately landed me the job. And I know I've been counseling others, and they have changed their LinkedIn profile, and it's resulted in those interviews. I won't say it's resulted in the job, but it's certainly highlighted their experience for people out there. So that's the basic of LinkedIn. But what we're going to cover today, and again, I have a much longer presentation, but we only have a limited amount of time today that Jeff gives me. So we're going to cover your profile, your headline, and your open to work, your dashboard, and your about sections, your work history, your skills and endorsements. Then we'll look at trying to optimize. Through that process, we'll look at optimizing your profile. Then we're going to take a look at how recruiters actually use LinkedIn to search for candidates. And then for you, how do you go about searching for jobs? And then some homework at the end. So, but the question I want to ask you is, does your profile attract hiring managers and recruiters' attention? If it does, and we'll show you a way to test that, if you will, in a little bit. But again, first impressions are vitally important. It's been said about resumes that recruiters can review a resume in 6 to 10 seconds. I will say basically the same thing about a LinkedIn profile. They get a quick view, and then there's determination whether they spend some time with it. But it all starts with your profile, as I mentioned. This one, as you mentioned, it's the number one impression that potential employers have. This is what you would see if you looked at me, although this is a much older version of my profile. Does the information that you've entered about yourself align with the market values that the recruiter is looking for? Does it address what the recruiter cares for? Remember, it's not just about you, it's also about finding what is needed for the employers that you're looking to attract. And does your resume, your profile attract the target market that you're looking for? Another question I want to ask you is, how long has it been since you've updated your profile? Or does your profile look like an old rusty car because of neglect? Well, somebody gave a presentation about a year ago, well, it's been over a year ago now, about the freshness guarantee on your resume. If you haven't done something with it or your profile in the last week, shame on you, because it may be neglected. It may be looking a little out of date. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, it's important that you find that, because you don't want your resume to look like that piece of soggy fruit in the produce section of the grocery market. And most of the products there, a lot of the dairy products and some of the meat products, have best used by dates. I know that's the same thing with a loaf of bread or some cereal. So LinkedIn is a powerful platform to help you in your job search and networking and career management. And having a strong profile will boost your career and help you to land that dream job that you have. So you want to update it regularly. This is something I found in doing a presentation on LinkedIn where had to slim it down to talk to a different audience. But it's the things that you want to do on that is, how do you attract attention? Again, you notice there's some changes from the earlier version of my profile. What do you see in this one? Well, I've got a background photo. It's a little different than the background photo today. I changed that out just before we started. I've got the open to work banner open. And again, you can open it up to all LinkedIn members in doing that. There's some advantages to that. There's some disadvantages, and we'll talk about that when we get to open to work section. But this used to be a banner that they had on LinkedIn to tell you how you stood. Again, what it looked like was a pie chart, and your goal was to reach that all-star status up there. And those things on the right that are starred are the things that you need to touch bases on in your profile, because LinkedIn gives a value for every one of those areas in your profile, as well as your activity on LinkedIn and your profile picture. Okay, so those things make a difference. Okay, the things that you need to do to complete your profile, and these are the things that will help you with your ranking. Use a professional headshot and maybe even put in a banner or background photo. Canva is something that you can check on to help you create those, or you can just do, as I did this morning, I added a picture of our sail away from Venice when we did a Mediterranean cruise. The headline, use the job title, position, or positions that you're applying for. You can have multiple titles there. You actually have about 220 characters now in your headline section. That's up from 144 when LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft. Do use the open to work under your headline. You can list additional job titles there. That allows you to list at least 5 additional titles. It also allows you to talk about if you're open to a relocation and what other areas you might be looking at. Your about section really is a new what they've called, what LinkedIn changed it to be your summary. It's an overview of your career and should highlight your accomplishments. I've seen about sections that were maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. You actually have about 2,000 characters on your about section that you get to play with. In the about section, one of the things that's very important, because you may not be a first degree connection with everybody in LinkedIn, you need to have your contact information, your email address, and your phone number on that first line. Jeff has he's got his in his background photo as well. But that's a way that you can do that. Make it easy for the recruiter or hiring manager to get hold of you. And again, if we're not first degree connections, if we have time at the end, we'll take a look at some profiles and see what that situation is. Your experience section should have your job title. And if you've got one of those unusual job titles like member of technical staff 3, again, use the job title that's used in industry or when you go looking for a job in parentheses. A description of your duties and the results. Again, the results are kind of important. What did you achieve in performing those duties? And include the keywords from your profession. Let people know that you're a professional in your profession. The skills from your profession are also important, as well as endorsements. Education, awards, and certifications, professional development. A lot of profiles that I have reviewed over the years simply stop when somebody got their degree. They don't keep it up to date. And likewise, recommendations from coworkers and former bosses are like letters of reference, and they're very important if you can get those. You should have a couple for your more recent jobs. Another view of scripture is from Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. Again, that was something that was encouraging to me because there are times when you come to that end of the rope and you've got that job, you think you've landed, and it turns out they send you the Dear John letters. No thanks, we've decided to go with someone else. And that can be very discouraging. So keeping the encouragement up is one of the ways that you can do that by doing verses of scripture. Next question I'll have, if your headline is the only thing somebody sees about you, what does it say? Okay. Does it tell who you are? Does it identify what you do? Does it tell what you've accomplished? And is your headline a grabber? Again, those are the things that you want to have as you think about your profile, those things that you want to talk about. So let's take a look at I mentioned how you can evaluate your headline. This is a service. You can see the URL down at the bottom to test your profile. This is my old profile, one of mine, and you notice that it was earlier. It had I think there's about 90 characters in that headline right there. But you can test that when that was originally tested. Headline got an overall score of 55, 65 for engagement. I guess they liked the picture in the background, and 55 for the impression. Well, I made some changes to it, and you can see what those are. I used the pipe character to divide some of the things that are. I used some adjectives to describe my experience, successful executive recruiter, and tested that. When that was tested, my overall score jumped from 55 to 78. The impression score, or engagement score, only went up about 7 points from 65 to 72, but the impression score went from 55 to 76. So there's some pretty significant changes there, how it comes across to people. Well, it all starts, as I say, with your profile, but again, the next thing that's involved is your headline. These are all headlines I've seen. Again, the top 4, unemployed, retired, seeking new opportunity, formerly VP of Finance, all probably talk about the individual and who they are. But they're not putting you in those people are not putting themselves forth in the most positive light, because it talks about retired or unemployed. They wonder what you've been doing now, seeking a new opportunity. Maybe he doesn't really know what he's looking for. Formerly VP of Finance, how long has that person been out of work? Experienced digital design engineer gives a little bit more definition. as does the social media strategist with print and digital media experience, public relations, marketing, and corporate experience. It doesn't have to be a long profile, although you do have 220 characters. It could be short, like supply chain, procurement, and purchasing. Or accountant, again, if you look at do a search in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for accountants as a recruiter, there's probably about 40,000 people with accountant in their profile. General ledger, financial reporting, and cost. Amplify that, make it a little bit more distinctive. Likewise, executive assistant, again, about 35,000 of those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But by adding more detail, it makes it more definitive what the experience and habit somebody has, and the more likely that somebody's going to click through and look at the rest of your profile. IT project manager lists some hot buttons, idle and scrum master and agile are all key buzzwords for IT. General manager manufacturing aerospace, again, pretty narrow, pretty limited in scope, but again, pretty definitive that they have general management experience in aerospace and manufacturing. Another thing that's come out, and I found this on somebody else's presentation, and I'm happy to share it with you, is adding adjectives and descriptive to your profile. Okay, by adding some of these to your profile, it makes a difference in what you are and who you are. Let's take a look at some more descriptive headlines. The accountant, senior accountant, increasing productivity in highly regulated industries like telecommunications or Atmos Energy or Texas Power. It used to be Texas Power and Light. I can't remember the name now. Again, program managers specializing in international business and aerospace. Again, you can see each of those are more descriptive. That idle and Scrum Master Agile, able to explain high tech to customers and deliver projects on time. I worked in Oracle and Siebel, and it was very important that people be able to explain to the customer what we were selling them and how we were going to implement it, how it would benefit them. Likewise, the business analysts had met with the customers, and they were able to bridge the gap between the techies and management and between the customer and the techies. So they could define it when it was there. Here's some other headlines that you can see. The systems analyst in healthcare has used digital indexes to reduce hospital administration paperwork by 54%. If you've ever signed into the hospital, you know all the paperwork that they make you go through. Okay, so those are just some other titles that you can use, just some examples that are helpful for you. Another verse of scripture that I like is, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give it to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. From John's Gospel in the New Testament. Another question I mentioned about using open to work. Some of you may not like that banner that's between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock, but it does allow people to know more about you. And this one, I've opened it up to all LinkedIn members, and there's another limitation that you can do there.
Locke, let me, if I can just mention, today at Frisco Connect, they were speaking from the recruiting firm. It was talking about how a recruiting firm works. And I asked her during the break, so how many people work at your recruiting firm? And she said 25. And I said, how many full-blown LinkedIn packages are you buying? And they said 2. So only 2 out of 25 people have access to the full-blown recruiting package. That's why it's, I think, really important. If you're open to work, put the open to work banner on there so that everybody who's using the free version will find you.
I never, as a recruiter at Oracle and Siebel, I never applied for the Oracle, for the LinkedIn Recruiter or Recruiter Lite software licenses. The Recruiter package is $10,000 per year. Recruiter Lite is only $5,000 per year. Again, the Recruiter Lite is limited to the United States. The Recruiter itself is worldwide, and they can access that billion people that are on LinkedIn. But again, I agree with Jeff. Unless you're in a stealth mode, you may not want to open it up to all LinkedIn members, but we'll show you what that looks like right here. Again, I put that this is me. I've talked about my 5 or my key skills for that 5 that you can have on open to work. I've got executive recruiter, professional recruiter. I started to add career, and you notice there's some artificial intelligence, a drop-down menu that gives you some choices there. If the career title, the job title that you want is not there, you try to enter it. Again, LinkedIn has a library of titles, and if it's not there, they won't let you use it. But it also allows you to talk about where you want to work. Do you work on-site or remote, working from home? Or are you willing to work a hybrid situation? And where are you looking to locate? This is where you can locate if I'm open to relocation in the United States. Or you can put that in your headline as well, open to relocation. And what is your status right now? Recruiters like low-hanging fruit. I'm actively applying. They're going to probably touch bases with those people at first if they meet the qualifications. So those people are the ones that you get in. If you're in a stealth mode, which means if you don't want your current boss to know that you're looking, you can limit it to just recruiters. Those are the people that take the software licenses, as Jeff mentioned. Okay. The other thing that you want to take a look at on your homepage, you have some analytics or some details about the activity on your profile. Again, post impressions, you notice in the past 7 days, how many times have I come up in one of those thumbnail sketches? How many profile views in the last 90 days? How many people have actually taken a look at my profile? And how many followers do I have? And how many search appearances I have appeared in? Because sometimes the search appearances are different from the people that have just taken a look at your profile. Okay. But those are some of the things that you can take a look at. Okay. Are you using the featured section of to display your work? I've just listed a couple of my presentations that I've done over the years. Again, I've updated that. Again, I should update it again because it's last September and I've had some speaking engagements since then. And I'm going to update it again. I speak next week to another group on resumes. So that's one of the things that you can do, but you can also have a copy of your resume that you can put in here. You might include a copy, just a notation on the book like Jeff has. My son is a digital motion graphic designer. He's got his reel of the things that he's created is there. If you're in advertising or public relations, you can also have a portfolio, samples of your portfolio, the articles that you put, so the ad campaigns that you've run, etc. But that can be charged. That's some activity that you can have on your LinkedIn on your features section. Moving ahead, we're going to talk about your summary, which is now called the About section. This one's a little bit longer than I like, but it's extremely well written. Normally, I recommend, like Terry Sullivan, that you limit your paragraphs to 3 or 4, maybe 5 lines. Again, this one is longer, but it's highlighted using bold to highlight somebody who's got a background in financial planning and analysis. And notice they've used FP&A, an acronym down at the bottom. If you do use an acronym, be sure that you spell it out the first time that you use it. Because if you use like AMA, there's American Medical Association, American Marketing Association, and yes, there's an American Motorcycle Association. So those are the things that you want to do when you do that. But that one's well written. It talks about his background in financial planning and analysis. So somebody who's been in accounting or financial recruiting would probably jump on this one to take a look at it. And the other thing I will note here is right at the top, he's got his email address is right there to make it easy for them to contact. Some other sample resume or summaries. Again, LinkedIn has opened things up and a little bit easier. You notice the second example there is in the first person. Most people who write resumes would tell you to write in the third person, but both of these are in the first person. Again, I wanted to do that. The first one there is somebody who worked at Disney World and PR and HR and other things, but they've done executive coaching, training, talent development. These are pretty well written ones that you can see. Just different ways that you can do it. Moving on, we'll talk about your experience. Again, this is from my actual profile from my time at Oracle Corporation, but you want to have your job title, the company and dates. Again, limit your duties and responsibilities to 3 to 5 lines. Much longer than that, they won't get read. I also included an email from my former boss's boss when I left Oracle in 2010. Again, I've just included that because I thought it was kind of interesting to have there. But the other thing that you want to do after I've summarized your experience there of what you recruited for is to include some of your accomplishments. I was twice selected as Recruiter of the Quarter from among 50 recruiters with the most hires. I was also selected from that same group of recruiters to attend the annual conference for the consulting organization. That's the one that I supported at their club meeting or their annual convention in Nassau in the Bahamas, which was kind of nice to take my wife along for a trip for 3 days. So those are some of the things that you could do to highlight and make your profile a little bit more interesting and exciting. But you also want to include, if you're out of work right now, I emphasize that strongly, to include a profile on what you're doing right now. I'll show you one in a minute. You can also add your volunteer experience. I know when I created my profile, my volunteer experience is actually in my profile itself, in the body of the experience, as opposed to a separate section. You can also have a page for your projects that you may have worked on. and I included a sample of that as well. So let's take a look at that in terms of the example of an out-of-work position. This particular one is for software applications engineer. They're looking for full-time. They're looking for an opportunity in financial services. They could just as easily put telecommunications or semiconductors or other government electronics. Those are the kind of things. And again, they start to add a location down there. You don't have to have much more than that, but that's an easy one just to add and update. Okay. And adding a project. If you've had project experience, I know when I was at Siebel and at Oracle Corporation, I used to get resumes from candidates who'd done a lot of work in IT consulting, and they would have a page for each project that they'd worked on. Well, this is just a sample of one. I was with a professional organization, the Dallas-Fort Worth Staffing Management Association, and was the program manager for a number of years, arranging for the speaker for that group. Every other month we had meetings. Okay. The next area, and it is probably one of the more critical ones in your profile, in addition to your headline, is your skills and endorsements. Okay. LinkedIn used to have 50 skills that you could. They've upped that to 100. And they will select, if you don't do it, 2 or 3 skills that they think match what best displays for you. But let's show about how you go about doing that. Okay. How you go about changing that. Okay. One of the ways to stop and give you a sample of thought is if you're looking to have what are my skills, in addition to looking at job postings, and you can identify what those are, you can go to this URL at the top, GitHub.io careerexplorer.com. This is what the first page looks like, and if you use that skip down there by the arrow, it'll take you to a page like this. LinkedIn list of skills. Again, there are about 150 skills listed, but they have, as you see in the arrows there, the second arrow, the list of skills, implementation for an implementation project engineer, and how well you would match a job that had that kind of requirements. And that gives you an idea how do you identify your skills. So once you've got your skills, are your skills organized for maximum input, for maximum impact, not input? Okay. Well, one of the things that you can do, it will display 2 or 3 skills for you. And you notice this is from mine. Okay. There's a blue pencil there. If you click on that blue pencil, it will bring you to a screen that has the 3 dots over there. And you can click on the 3 dots. And by doing that, you can come to a screen that has reorder. And if you click on the reorder, it will take you to a screen that looks like this. By placing your cursor over those 4 lines on the right, holding down, you can drag and drop the ones that are there. And this is a way to refresh your profile on a regular basis, once a week, is to change the order of these. Notice I have executive search, talent acquisition, career consulting, talent management. I could rearrange the order of those to human resources business partner if I were applying for a job like that. And doing that periodically, again, will refresh your profile, but it also lets people know that you have a variety of different skills. Okay. The other thing I want to take a look at is why do you want to take a look at other people? Okay. If you say, well, I'm looking for a job for me, not for somebody else, but how do you compare with those other people? Well, I did a search for a recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And by doing that, I was looking see if I would show up. I used to, when I was active on LinkedIn as a recruiter at either Mullen and Associates or at Siebel or at Oracle Corporation, I would typically show up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the first 2 or 3 pages. That's basically 20 to 30 thumbnail sketches, as you see there. But looking for a recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there are about 27,000 when this was run, people who have recruiter in their profile. Okay, so that's one of the things that how do you show up with that? Well, if you aren't showing up in the first 10 pages, that's 100 thumbnail sketches. You might take a look at some of the people like this one with Renee Lane, and take a look and see what's in her profile. Take a look at those things that are in your profile. If what she has in hers relates to you and you don't have it in your profile, by all means include it in your profile. See if it doesn't include your ratings. Again, but she has some designations, SPHR and SHRM. That's a professional association where you get recognition because you've passed certain qualifications. Okay, well, let's move on to the other side of this, and that's looking at searches on LinkedIn. How does LinkedIn run a search, but how does it differ from a recruiter when they run a search? And some recruiter search results, and then how do you go about placing searches for yourself and some filters that are there. Okay, the first screen we want to look, so really what do recruiters search for? Recruiters are generally searching for a match of job titles, Okay, and they get that from your headline, your open to work section, your about section, your employment section, both present and past job titles. Okay, and recruiters are really interested in people who have the skills and experience because it makes it easy for them to match up with selling that to somebody else, selling a hiring manager that you have the requisite skills and experience they're looking for. Keywords and skills, I've mentioned that from the job posting or that skills search that LinkedIn has that you can use. The other thing, the industries and specific companies. I know when I was applying for a job here in the Dallas area with an electronics company, they were looking for an MBA who had graduated from one of the top 10 business schools in the United States. Well, depending upon whose survey that you looked at, University of California at Berkeley is usually one of the top 10, along with Wharton and Harvard and University of Chicago, Stanford. Berkeley's up there with the rest as well. Okay. They're looking for the geographic location. Okay. Most applicants aren't willing to drive more than 20 to 25 miles to work. And that's the reason that most of the job boards have as their default setting 25 miles to work. And that's the reason recruiters start to look and limit their searches to 25 miles. Okay. They're looking for education. Did you have that graduate degree? Did you graduate from a certain technical school? Okay. As I said, recruiters are looking for someone who have done the job before, so they'll target certain job titles. Current and prior companies. What's your pedigree? How long did you serve there? It used to be if you changed jobs frequently, you're called a job hopper. And it's not so critical such anymore because of things like COVID that have happened recently. And people have had to change jobs or the layoffs that are occurring right now. I know I work for Oracle Corporation and my granddaughter has accepted a job to go to work for Oracle after she graduates in May. And they're having a layoff of about 20% of their workforce worldwide. So that's pretty significant. But again, it's a question of where are the layoffs coming from? Another thing, the recruiters, after they've looked at all those things, and the computer usually does that for the recruiter, then they'll take a look at your summary and your experience. So what's their next step? What do recruiters actually do? Well, they look at the headline and does it have the keywords that appear in the job posting? That's a real simple one. And that's generally a knockout factor pretty quick. Like if you don't match the job title, the chances that you'll be selected go up. Well, won't be selected, go up significantly. The about section, is it concise? Does it provide a concise or short version of your experience, expertise, and accomplishment? What did you do with that? Okay. Does your experience simply focus on the duties and responsibilities that you've had? I know as a recruiter, I've probably reviewed over 2 million resumes in my 40 years, and 90% of them, yes, that's a correct number, talked about their duties and responsibilities. They did not talk about what they'd accomplished, what were the results of performing those duties, okay, which are significant because that's what somebody's looking for. By implication, by saying that in your profile, this is still what I've done for my employers. And that's what I can do for you. That's the message you're trying to convey to them. Okay? Activity and post. Do they reflect your expertise? Do you come across and comment or post on other people's comments? Do you follow those? I know I still follow a lot of those and occasionally will feel led to comment on somebody's post. That's a right-on comment that they have. But moving along, I want to take a look at, okay, as I mentioned, you receive a score for each section of your profile and for your activity on LinkedIn. Okay, your ranking in searches is based on the sum of these values. Higher scores appear at the top of the list of results based on the qualifications being sought. That's kind of a thumbnail sketch of how recruiters and the LinkedIn algorithms work. Okay, this is an actual search from somebody. This is the search from a recruiter who had the recruiter software license. Okay. They can search worldwide. At the time this was done, there were only 710 million people in LinkedIn. It's up over 1 billion now. But they can search through that by entering the things that they're looking for by the titles on the side, like job title, location, skills, and assessments. Okay. They can narrow that down, that 710 million down to 70 in about 30 seconds or less. But they look at skills, they look at companies, they look at your skills, your education, and year of graduation. They can tell how old you are. Yes, okay, that's one of the things that people do, and industries as well. Here's an actual search result. And this one was the search was for a product manager, and they were looking for somebody in the Seattle area. Okay, was their desired location. They had Their search result drew in about almost 6,900 candidates sorted by relevance, and two and a half 2,500 of those have a relationship with the company. They're connected with the company or following the company somewhere, engaged in your talent brand. They're following the company and interested in it. They're looking for somebody with product management or product marketing. Those are two related type skills. In many cases, they're combined together. Okay. And the other thing is we had some target companies there like Microsoft, Amazon, and Fluke all in the Seattle area. And they also listed the University of Washington, which is there in Seattle. Take a look at another search. This one is for a project manager in Chicago. They would take somebody from either New York or San Francisco Bay Area. That project manager had to have experience with analytics and business strategy. Of those 43,000, only 83 of them were open to work. Well, this must have been a time when employment was very tight. Okay, people were happy with their jobs. But that's another thing that you can take a look at in that area. And they also education in the Chicago area, Northwestern University, north of Chicago. I'm surprised they didn't have the University of Chicago or University of Illinois at Chicago Circle or University of Chicago or two of the schools in that area. But that just gives you an idea what you're looking for. There are a couple of ways to search for jobs when it's up to you. You can use the search bar there at the top or the jobs icon over there at the top. Using the jobs icon, you have two options. You have a search for job, and you can enter a job title, a company name, and a location. If you use the jobs icon there, you have to enter a location. The first time you enter it is usually where you're going to be searching, like the Dallas area. But if you don't enter a location, it will come up for the United States. And this shows that when somebody didn't enter, they entered for a sales rep in the United States, but there are over 100, almost 200,000 sales reps in the United States in LinkedIn at the time that this was done. This one was for a senior accountant in Plano, Texas, and notice that 25 miles is the notable or default setting for most job boards. In Plano, Texas, there were at that time there were 144 jobs. The titles are there. If you look at that job title on the left, for Omnicell, the actual description is there on the right, and you can scroll through that to look at the qualifications, the requirements, and what are the skills that they're looking for. Another thing that's been added, because it's required now in California, New York, and Massachusetts, is a salary setting on job boards, and that's why it's there. Some job boards, like Indeed, also have estimates of salary setting, as does LinkedIn. Searching for jobs further, let's take a look at this one. This was for quality assurance. I did a presentation for the American Association of Quality Assurance's Dallas-Fort Worth chapter, that's a mouthful, and did a search for them for quality assurance. At that time, it came up with 1,900 jobs, but most of those jobs were quality inspector, quality technician. But by refining the search and adding the word manager, again, we knocked out over 90% of those jobs. Okay, but another one that you mentioned there, as you notice, is highlighted as past week. I do recommend that you limit your search to the past week. The reason being, jobs disappear or get filled pretty quickly, or they're taken down. I know I have a friend who was with EDS. She placed a job when EDS was still here in town for a project manager. She had 300 responses in the first hour and took the job down. Or you may have encountered a situation where you found a job in the morning, went back to try and find it in the afternoon, and had been taken down, or no longer accepting applications for that job. So that's one of the things by doing that, by refining that. But moving on, we'll take another look. This is for an executive assistant. I mentioned the Dallas area putting in a location. Again, it has some intelligence there, but notice the reason that you want to put that in is because there is a Dallas, Georgia, and a Dallas, Oregon. So if you don't, it'll put some other location for you. Not be a real good search. But this one turned up about 1,900 jobs. I think it was about 960 jobs for the executive assistant. This is another place to look for jobs. If you click on that jobs tab up there, which is green, it'll open up and show you some other areas that you can search in, one of which is groups. And if you click the groups tab, it'll open up to the groups, and you're eligible to join up to 100 groups. A lot of the groups will have a monitor or somebody who will grant admission to that. And groups are looking to keep the group pure with people like that. They're typically affinity type groups where if it's recruiters or realtors, they limit it to that kind of application. Occasionally, there are groups I applied for when I was helping candidates with Mullen to find jobs in South Carolina. I'm working with a plant there. For North Carolina, I joined the Raleigh, North Carolina business group. There's one here in Dallas called Dallas Blue. And again, I dropped out of Dallas Blue because they had, I think, over 30,000 people, and I was getting emails. It was flooding my email, my box and email, so I just dropped out. But that allow you, each group is allowed to post jobs that do not appear on LinkedIn. Yes, that's what I said. They don't appear on the LinkedIn proper as a job when you search for job. They're limited to the group because they're looking for people who are typically like members of the group, and that's who they're looking to hire. People who have the experience they're looking for. It's a much greater likelihood that people in the group will have the experience being sought. But this is a list of the filters on LinkedIn. You can't get there anymore. I haven't been able to find it, but again, on some jobs it will show you these, and some jobs open up and find that. But I again mentioned the past week. It gives you other options. Something that LinkedIn adopted from Indeed.com was a salary estimate. If you're looking for jobs at 120K, again for a recruiter in Dallas at the time, because I had limited to a date, there were over 2,000. There were about 50 of those were 20K, 120K and above. But you can use the Easy Apply. If you want to use the Easy Apply, one caveat that I'll give to you, make sure that they will allow you to upload a current resume that's been tailored to the job. And what I mean tailored by the job, that you've got the job title on your resume matches the headline, and you've got some accomplishments under your summary statement. Otherwise, they will use your LinkedIn profile as your resume to apply for the job. You can look by industry, you can look by companies, you can look by location. So if I were not willing to drive to Garland or out to Irving for a job, I might want to say Dallas or Frisco or maybe Carrollton. Again, on that day. Most jobs on most of the job boards, I'll point out as a recruiter, are full-time positions. But there are other positions, contract positions. A lot of IT people are interested in contract jobs. They tend to pay a little bit more. And people are looking for part-time positions after they perhaps have stepped down. I know when I went with Mullen, I'd been working with those as a volunteer for those in job and career transition for about 12 years, and got approached and said, would you be interested in a part-time position for 90 days and try it on contract and get paid for it? And I said, yes. Well, at 90 days turned into 4 years and 90 days, but it also turned in probably the first 6 months was more like full-time than part-time. But I was paid on an hourly basis for how many hours I worked, which was great. Internships, for those people who are looking for internships, I mentioned I have a granddaughter that's going to work for Oracle. She had 2 summer internships with companies in her field before she went to work. And volunteer experiences are available as well. So those are some other things that you can consider in looking for a job when you start out with a basic search, and then you can refine it. You can also go back and clear it. There's a cancel button or cancel button next to the apply button up there. And the cancel will take you back to your original search so you don't have to recreate it. The other thing that LinkedIn allows you to do is to create a job alert so you don't have to continually go in and create a new search for jobs. You find a job that you're interested in, a recruiter in Plano, Texas. There's a job alert button that you could turn that radio button, hold your cursor over the radio button and move it to the right. It will allow you the option of daily or weekly alerts. The daily alerts come in usually between 7 and 8 in the morning. I still get some of those because I do help people try and find jobs. And that's a perch where it applies. Okay. And then some homework for you, just wrapping up. Again, we want to do that, is to complete the sections of your profile. Okay. Refresh your profile at least once a week. Go in and do something. If it's something to rearrange the skills or adding a period or subtracting a period, something that you could do. Headline, you can list multiple job titles there that you're looking for. Okay. Complete the open to work section below your headline. That allows you to list 5 more job titles. What are some of the other titles when you've done a search for, say, a recruiter? It might be a talent management specialist or another name, but there are other names for sales, like business development. You can find jobs like that. So those are other job titles that you can include in that list in the open to work section. The about section, as I say, put your name and contact information on the top line. Make it easy for me as a recruiter to get hold of you. Because it's very frustrating to have a perfect resume or a perfect profile and have no way to contact me other than through a second or third party. Those kind of things, those degree separation. And do choose your top 3 skills. because the ones that you have, LinkedIn may have chosen them for you, and those may not be the ones that support your job title. Okay, and do a people search. Find out how you rank. My email address is there, lockealderson@gmail.com. If you'd like a copy of the slides, I'll be happy to send it to you. Jeff, I'm going to turn it back to you.
What would you like to do now?
Well, if I can get back, I have to close this out. Well, let's do that. And I'm going to
While
share.
you're looking, Doris asked, how do you use the people search to see how you rank? You
Well,
cannot see what your ranking is.
you
So,
can't see what you're ranking in, but if you do not show up in, let's say, the first 10 screens, that's 100 thumbnail sketches, you probably are not going to get found by somebody searching for somebody with your background.
yeah, so put in the job title you're looking for and see if you show up on this search.
I hope my screen is. What have I done, Jeff?
Well, you're going to need to share again.
How do I? Okay, share. That come up?
Yes, it is. We see
Great.
your profile. Good.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is see if anybody would like to have us look at their profile or would like us to do a job search. We have time for 2 or 3, maybe 4 if Jeff is permissible for us.
So if you want us to see your profile, just type your name in the chat window. Let's see here. I'd love you to look mine. Doris Davis.
Doris
Yes.
Davis, Davis.
Yes. And that's it right there, that first one.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. First thing I'm going to do, because she's a second degree connection for me, is going to see if I can reach her. No, I can't reach her. So let's go on down. As I mentioned, in her About section, she has her contact information there. Okay. It's there in her at the top line of her about section, which is great. That makes it easy for me to contact her. Okay. And the fewer clicks that somebody has to reach that contact information, the better. She may also have it at the bottom of her contact information. But let's look. Those are the 3 lines that show up when somebody looks at your profile. So what else has she got? Okay. She's got a number of other things in terms of highlights. Again, what I might want to do in terms of some of those is to pull out a highlight or accomplishment and use it as a bulleted item. You've used that. It looks like 2 square brackets together, which is fine. And you may have done that. LinkedIn's editor is not the most robust editor, so you may have to create it in Word and cut and paste it in where you want it to be. Okay. Well, I would make some difference in what you've got there because there's a sameness to all of those kinds of bullets. So usually 2 or 3 lines like you have. I've led 100 plus product, service, and partnership launches. Okay. So again, the career highlights, again, to break those up somehow so it stands out a little bit more. You might want to take a look at my resume for some different types of formats that you can use in your about section. Okay.
Okay.
One other thing I want to do, let's take a look real quick is to scroll down to her accomplishments. Okay. Skills. Okay. Okay. Volunteer. She's got a separate section for her volunteer experience, which is great. As I said, mine is embedded in my profile right now. What I want to look for in her skills. Okay. Omnichannel merchandising. Okay. Those are the top 2 skills that show up, establishing strategic partnerships. When you look at job postings, and you take a look at the requirements there, what are the knockout factors in those requirements? Those are typically the types of skills that you want to have on the top. So she has 100 skills. And she can go, as I said, to click on the blue pencil that's out here, black now, and click on the 3 dots. And when you get that, reorder your skills and hold your cursor over the 4 lines at the right. So she's primarily interested in omni-channel merchandising and strategic partnerships. I don't know if those are the ones, if those are the ones that you want, that's great. If those are others that you want to select or move those around periodically, like once a week, that would be
Okay.
great for you. Okay.
Yes.
Other than that, I think you've got a good profile. Looking
Thank
at
Go
you.
back, go back up to the top of her profile just 1 second.
Okay.
Just want to point out, if you're looking at her profile, it doesn't say connect, but says you can follow. If you don't want to, if you want to connect with somebody, that's a choice. You can have people follow you or connect with you. But if you click on the more button, you can go down and click on more. It should allow you to connect there. So if you wanted to connect with somebody, if you say follow and it doesn't say connect, you can go open up the more button to connect with somebody.
The other thing that he didn't mention, and I'll mention it piggyback because he normally does, you want, if the connect is blue, you want to include a note with that. If it's just white like that, it just allows you to connect, doesn't allow you to send something like we encountered each other at the LinkedIn presentation, or we saw each other at that luncheon, wherever you met them, it gives them a little bit more to judge how they know you. Okay, let's try somebody else, Jeff.
Okay, Anne King, Anne King.
King.
Yeah, add an E to that. Add an
And
E
with the
to
E.
How
King.
about that one?
That's me. Yep.
Okay. Okay, well, she's a second degree connection again. She has the blue connect, which means we can connect directly, even though she's second degree. Second degree connections, you cannot connect. There will be a white connect button there. But let's take a look at that. She has not opened up her security settings so that I can connect with her. So let's go one place further, and that's down in her about section. Again, because some people bury their account. No, I'm not looking for your top skills, Ann. No.
In
Yeah, see
my,
more
yeah.
up a little bit.
I
There you
clicked the
go.
wrong button. Okay. Again, this is a lot together. I would break it up somehow. You've used dashes there. Bullets are a little bit more important there.
Mhm.
Or you can use asterisks is another way. Mine uses asterisks, I think. Okay.
Okay.
The other thing in your that you have there is to put that contact information at the top there. And if you don't want to put your phone number, get a Google phone number. I don't know how to do it, but it's real easy to go to Google and say, how do I get a Google phone number? They will screen your calls for you.
Mm.
So that's a way to do that. Okay. Another thing I
Okay.
wanted to take a look at is your skills. Okay. She's got a separate listing for projects and volunteer experience, skills, sales, GDS. I'm not that. Sabi GDS.
Saber GDS.
Okay. Well, again, the first thing you want to do is add the R.
Okay. Oh, there's a typo there. Yep, I see it. I don't know how that happened.
API, orientation, orchestration. Are those things that are generally noted? And I've hired product managers before, okay, but I'm not familiar with either GDS or API.
Okay.
So if there are other things that you have in your skills that are more relevant to what you're looking for, those should be the top two that you list. Right? And go to that the pencil, click on the dots, click on reorder, and then you have that option on the right with the 4 lines over there, and you hold your cursor and drag and drop up or down. Okay.
Okay.
She's got a current recommendation she's got a couple of current recommendations. She's got 22 in all. It's good for your most recent experience if you can list a couple of different recommendations because they add credibility to who you are. These are people that have known you through some type of working environment.
Mhm.
One more, Jeff.
One more. Okay, Michelle. Let's see here. ELL, two L's.
Hawk, Hauck.
No, nope, go back. Not it. Michelle.
Okay. Last name.
Hawk, Hauck. Here we go.
Okay. Well, we're first degree connections this time. Okay.
Yeah, somebody stole my account years ago, so I've got two out there.
Well, I have two too. When I left Siebel, I think I got one at Siebel. I have one from Oracle, which is the more recent one. Okay. Accounts receivable, she's listed some other things. Cash applications, account management, accounts payable, which is recognized as a acronym, inventory, billing, collections, patent account advocate, insurance verification. You've used, she does have her contact information in your headline. That's okay to put it there. I would tend to put it, and you also got it in your about section on the fourth line. I would move it on the about section to the top line. It's the only thing I see about that. Okay.
And I don't know if I would take it off of your title
Yeah,
underneath your name because I think LinkedIn frowns upon that.
yeah, they do.
So you could get locked out of LinkedIn if they somebody reports you.
Or if you were to put it in your name section, they really frown upon that.
Right.
So
Right.
take off the accounts receivable.
No, no, no.
No, take
At the end of your headline, take out your email address and your phone number. Okay. And just
Oh,
put it at the top of your about section, the first line of your about section. Your about section, you've shortchanged yourself because you've used 4 lines. You have
okay.
2,000 characters. Okay. There's a lot more. You can basically include your resume in your about section.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a way to do that. Let's take a look at okay. So you have listed as a current job, okay, which is okay to do that you're a member of the South Lake Focus Group, which is okay. Okay. What I was looking at was your volunteer experience skills, monthly accounts. If you had to list your top skills in accounting, what would they be? Are they monthly?
Research and analysis.
Okay. Well, you have 90 skills that you can play with. Okay. And by clicking on that pencil that's going to be right over here, and the 3 dots are going to be there, it will open up, say, reorder. And when you click reorder, there are going to be 4 lines on each one of these. And you can move to the top the ones that you want, or periodically, once a week, go in and reorder them slightly. Because your activity there counts toward the scoring when somebody does a search for somebody with your background. Okay? But not all of those are, if you're looking for a specific one, take the skill sets that are there that are most relevant to that job. And you can find some of those when you look at the job posting. There's usually something in there that you think that's a gotta have, a must, or a knockout factor. Okay. Michelle, good to work with you. Jeff, I'm up on my hour with a minute. So
Okay. Well, let me just share a few more slides and we'll get out of here, Locke. Thank you very much for your presentation. If you want a full copy of all of the slides that Locke has in his slide deck, it's more than what he's shown here. Just send Locke an email at lockealderson@gmail.com. Next week, our speaker will be Kurt Vondermatter. He'll be talking about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye, how he is active recruiter, how he is trying to find you. So join us next Tuesday for Kurt's presentation.
Kurt's presentation. He does a good job.
Yeah, get the right person there. Tomorrow, the practice interview team is meeting in person. If you're able to go, if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, go to Christ United Methodist Church at the corner of Coit and Parker in Plano from 1 to 3 o'clock, and you can watch an in-person interview. They'll have 3 different interviews scheduled tomorrow. They meet in person on the first, second, third, and fifth Wednesday of the month. On the fourth Wednesday of the month, they meet online only. That way, anyone around the U.S. can watch the presentation. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, health insurance for job seekers. There's lots of other options beside COBRA of what you can do. So Mike Chapman has been helping job seekers for over 15, 20 years. With health
I'll say that Mike has been my health insurance representative since 2010.
Okay.
Great guy.
He's been helping people for a long, long time. So if you have questions about health insurance options and what else you can do, join us this Friday morning at 9:30 in the morning. You can join us in person, also at Christ United Methodist Church in Plano, or you can join us on Zoom, and you'll find that information on the careerusa.org website. If you'd like to join the Career DFW, Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to join in one or both. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group, but I will look at your profile. And if your profile is not mostly complete, I will deny you, because why are you on LinkedIn if you don't have a mostly complete low profile? That's real important. We have over 16,000 members in that group, and it's a great way to expand your connections and link up with other people. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you want. That way, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it. On the careerusa.org YouTube channel, click on playlist where you see that green arrow. Every video I post goes into one of 7 different playlists. And then down where you see the red arrow, don't click on the video, but click where it says View Full Playlist, and up will come a list in chronological order of all the speakers and their dates in chronological order, and the speaker and the topic, and you can watch any one of those you want at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and just like to get our weekly email, you can just scan this QR code and send a blank email, or send a blank email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed because I control the list. So if you want to be able to find out what the links of what we're sharing, just send us a link and join the mailing list. Please note, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. CareerUSA.org is a Career DFW website. I created the Career DFW 501c3 before I thought about CareerUSA.org. That's why Career DFW is the parent organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. Locke's a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 17 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Locke, thank you very, very much. Everybody else, have a great week, and hope to see you either tomorrow at the Pit Crew or Friday at the North Dallas Group.
Jeff, can we answer this other question that Doris has?